The story begins in a small town in America, where our main character David is returning home from his office. As soon as he steps through the door, he calls out to his daughter, Masha, but there is no response. Questions start to arise in David's mind. His daughter's car is parked outside, and he remembers she had said her friends were coming over that night. So where is Masha? Worried, David rushes upstairs and heads straight to Masha's bedroom, but there's no one there. Just then, his eyes fall on the bathroom door. When he opens it, the scene he witnesses changes his life forever. Masha is lying in the bathtub with deep-cut marks on her arms. She had ended her own life. The sight was so horrifying that David was completely shaken. From that day on, David's life turned into a living nightmare. Every night, he would wake up drenched in sweat from terrifying dreams. During the day, he began to see strange shadows. One night, David felt as if Masha's ghost was standing right in front of him. Her face was so terrifying that he couldn't move. 4 months later, after barely pulling himself together, David joined a support group where people shared their painful experiences. When it was David's turn, he spoke in front of everyone. 4 months ago, my daughter committed suicide, and just a month ago, my wife divorced me. Now I have no reason left to live. Hearing his pain, 4 strange women dressed in black started staring at him. Their gaze felt like it was tearing through David's soul. David continued, saying that if he could just talk to his daughter one more time, maybe his pain would lessen a little. But the support group leader warned him, spirit boards and such things are dangerous. It's all devil's work. Disheartened, David gave up the idea. But then those same 4 mysterious women came to him and said, we can help you. We can help you meet Masha. David didn't believe them at first, but when they mentioned his daughter's name, he was shocked. He had never told anyone her name. The women said, we can hear the voice of people's hearts. If you're ready, come to us. The next day, David started experiencing strange things. His palms went numb. Just then, he heard a woman's voice from inside the house. When he went upstairs, he saw his ex-wife, Michelle, packing her things. That night, David felt like his body was paralyzed. Then he heard a voice from above. Slowly, he walked toward Masha's room. As soon as he entered the room, he felt like someone was standing behind him. He turned around but found no one. He started going through Masha's belongings and suddenly found a diary. Inside the diary, there was a photo of Masha with the 4 women, but their faces were all blurry. As David flipped through the diary, he realized his daughter wasn't happy. Each page was filled with questions. The next day, David looked at the diary again more carefully. Suddenly, he found a woman's undergarment in his hand. Right then, he saw Masha standing on the stairs. David softly called out, Masha, but she didn't respond and quietly walked upstairs. Masha slowly opened her room's door and went inside. David woke up again from a terrifying nightmare, his forehead drenched in sweat, fear clearly visible in his eyes. Then his eyes landed on an old photo of Masha. Just then, a dark shadow appeared in the room, one that seemed ready to swallow David whole. The next day, David met Masha's old friend Casey. He asked her, did Masha ever tell you anything strange? Any secrets? Casey thought for a moment and replied, no, she always seemed happy. David quickly took out a photo and asked, then who are these 4 people with Masha? But Casey refused to recognize any of them. That night, David went back to the support group, and there he shares the strange and unusual events happening to him. 4 mysterious women from the same group who always wear black clothes listen very carefully to David's story. After that, they come to David and say, there is a spirit in your house. We need to go there and perform a purification. David agrees and begins to give them his address, but they interrupt him and say, we don't need your address. We will get there ourselves. As soon as David reaches home, not even a minute passes when the 4 women appear at his doorstep. The purification begins. Strange chants are recited in every corner of the house. Just then, David's ex-wife Michelle enters the house. Seeing 4 unfamiliar women, she gets angry and assumes David has invited them for his own pleasure. She says, have you really fallen this low? And storms out of the house. David runs after her and tries to explain, but Michelle refuses to believe him and leaves in anger. When David returns home, the women say, we haven't completed the purification. Masha's spirit must leave from here, but you stopped it. David starts to doubt them. In anger, he tells them to leave. But before going, they say, you must find out why Masha is still here. After they leave, David begins tearing pages out of Masha's old diary in the middle of the night. Suddenly, he feels as if Masha's shadow is walking on the stairs. He wakes up from a dream again at midnight, but the dream feels so real that he cannot ignore it. He goes into Masha's room and sees his daughter staring at him. Trembling with fear, he wakes up. But then he sees Masha's shadow near his feet and starts hearing the sound of crying. David follows the voice and sees Masha. Masha, wait, he says. But the moment he tries to touch her, it all turns out to be a dream again. David's mental state has completely deteriorated now. The next day at work, David looks completely shattered. Just then, he notices 3 strangers outside the office window. They are the same women who were in the support group earlier. At that moment, David receives a call from Masha's friend Casey. Casey says that Masha had joined some strange group. and the people in the photo might be from that same group. As the call ends, David sees the three women approaching him inside the office. Night has fallen, and a strange silence fills David's house. Suddenly, a mysterious woman appears before David. She slowly points him toward a Ouija board and says, "If you want to talk to your daughter Masha's spirit, do what I say." David agrees, and as soon as he follows the board's instructions, he gets pulled into a bizarre world. There, 4 women are sitting in front of him. Their leader tells David that to summon Masha's spirit, he must bring her diary and the items she holds most dear. As soon as David brings out the diary and the other belongings, the ritual to summon her spirit begins. But soon the atmosphere begins to change. Fear and pain appear on the women's faces, their bodies start trembling, and then they all fall unconscious. David notices that in the photo where the women's faces were once blurry, they now appear clearly. He realizes that the women shown in the photo are the same ones in front of him. And those 4 women, they were actually one and the same. David's heart began to race. He couldn't understand whether what was happening was real or just an illusion. Terrified, Mike returned to the real world and called out to Michelle. "Please, stay with me tonight," David pleaded. Michelle, already worried by David's condition, agreed to stay. But when her eyes fell on the Ouija board, she became furious. "Why have you gotten yourself involved in all this superstition?" David brushed it off lightly and said, "It's just a game." Michelle found it ridiculous and stormed out in anger. That night, David had another terrifying dream. In the dream, Masha was whispering something into Michelle's ear. After that, Michelle screamed loudly. David suddenly woke up, but he kept hearing Masha's voice calling him toward the room. This time, David felt a red thread tied around his finger. Holding on to the thread, he walked into the bathroom, the same bathroom where Masha had taken her life. In the dream, David saw the same horrifying scene, Masha lying in the bathtub covered in blood. But this time, something was different. Masha looked at him and said, "Daddy, I'm so lonely." David woke up again, shaken by her haunting voice. When he looked out the window, he saw 3 strangers standing there, the same people he had seen before. Frightened and disturbed, David decided that he would perform a spirit summoning ritual himself. He began to chant a strange mantra he found written in Masha's diary. As he chanted, strange sounds echoed throughout the room. David felt dizzy and collapsed to the ground. Suddenly, a cold gust of wind blew in, and David fainted. When David regained consciousness, he heard a faint sobbing sound. He opened a door and saw Masha sitting on the floor, shivering from the cold. David reached out to her and touched her cold face. "Papa, I'm feeling very cold," Masha said. David couldn't believe his eyes. He picked her up and said, "You need a hot bath." He quickly took off his shirt and began leading her toward the bathroom. Masha looked as if she belonged to another world. Taking a sigh of relief, David immediately called his ex-wife, Michelle. "Masha is alive," David said, his voice filled with both fear and joy. But on the other end of the call, a strange voice echoed, repeating David's words like Michelle was mimicking him, and then followed by a terrifying laugh. David panicked, ended the call. But when he returned to Masha, he saw her asking the same question over and over in an eerie tone. "Papa, I'm a good girl, right?" Then she turned to David and asked, "Papa, why did you kill yourself?" David didn't want to face that question, so he grabbed Masha's hand and tried to take her out of the house. But just as they reached the door, 5 strange people appeared in front of them. Masha suddenly screamed loudly and yanked her hand away from David, running back inside. David started to panic. He ran after her, but Masha was nowhere to be seen. Then David entered a room and saw Masha standing behind him, holding a glass in her hand. Suddenly, she attacked David with the glass, striking him on the head. David, groaning in pain, stumbled and tried to get out. He asked the people standing at the door for help, but they stood there silently in a strange manner. David took off one of their hats, and what he saw shook him to the core. Their faces weren't human. They looked like they weren't from this world. Terrified, David collapsed to the floor and somehow ran back inside the house. He shut the door, but Masha's voice was still echoing. Fearfully, David followed the voice. Masha now had a sharp knife in her hand. She slashed David in the stomach. David fell in pain, but somehow managed to kick Masha away and ran upstairs. Masha chased after him. David locked himself inside the bathroom, thinking he was safe. But as soon as he opened the door, Masha was standing right there. David tried to choke her in self-defense, but then Masha screamed, "You made my life a living hell." From this, it becomes clear that David had done something terrible to Masha. David was stunned. Masha revealed why she had taken her own life. She wanted to escape David's cruelty. She was now possessed by a dark spirit and attacked David like a wild animal. During the struggle, David picked up the fallen knife and started stabbing Masha. His final stab pierced her heart. Masha died screaming. Exhausted and terrified, David was getting ready to escape the house when those 4 mysterious women reappeared. They grabbed David. Suddenly, strange movements began in David's body. A hand emerged from his stomach. Masha was reborn from David's body, gaining a new life. David's sacrifice gave Masha a new birth, and with that, the film ends here.